The Godfather is a film that has grown universal acclaim and an international fan base since its release in 1972. It's one of those movies that even if you haven't seen it, you think of it when you hear the words greatest movies ever made, along with other great movies from the golden age of Hollywood, like Casablanca or Citizen Kane or Killer Bean Forever. And since the film is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, I thought the only way I could pay my proper respects is to give it an in-depth analysis and try to make sense of what makes this movie a masterpiece half a century later. Also, yes, I know, this is a different setup for this type of video, but I just wanted to see if it works, and also I forgot to charge my camcorder last night, so rip. Good evening, everybody. It's your boy Idiot Juice here. Welcome back to another episode of JustCarp Complains. Who wouldn't get it? So normally I would start off this part of the video by saying that I'm going to split it up into sections, and then say right before I start, let's just jump right into it. You know, like I'm channeling my inner Philip DeFranco or something. But I think that does a huge disservice to The Godfather, a movie that is so good, it deserves a more elegant type of introduction. So, instead I'm just going to explain the opening scene. The movie starts off with these famous words. I believe in America. This is the start of an opening monologue from a man only credited as Bonacera, who wants retribution for his daughter being beaten nearly to death. He recounts in painstaking detail how one night his daughter was drowned in whiskey by her boyfriend and another man, and how their plan was to take advantage of her, but she refused. So they beat her so badly that she lost all her beauty, and the two guys didn't face jail time since they're related to people in power. Naturally, Bonacera is devastated at how inhuman these two assholes were towards his daughter, and he wants revenge. So he tells the story to Vito Corleone, the patriarch of one of New York's 5 big crime families, in hopes that he can do something in return to the two men. To which Vito says, "No, I don't really feel like it." Vito is aware that this man is giving him a reasonable request, but Bonacera has lately been forgetting about Vito a bit before the movie takes place, and he doesn't understand why he should even follow through with this request at all. I'll later get into why this politeness is of utmost importance when speaking with the Don, but Vito actually has to follow through with this request because the day this conversation takes place is his daughter's wedding day. It's apparently Sicilian tradition that someone can never refuse a favor on the day his daughter's married. Vito is pissed that he has to follow through with this tradition, but through a change of heart and Bonacera's evidence sucking up, he agrees to grant the favor and have one of his associates have the two men killed. This is how you do an opening scene for a movie! This opening scene is perfect on so many levels, from the acting, to the writing, to the cinematography, to the overarching storyline, and the brilliant lighting that adds emotional depth to the characters, and the incredible set design that's so true to life, and Vito's emotions and background forcing him to do something he doesn't want to do, and holy shit, that was just the first 5 minutes. The Godfather is filled with moments like these, with people in front of and behind the camera doing such a damn good job of bringing this beautifully tragic story to the big screen. On screen you obviously have Vito, but you also have Tom Hagen, Vito's second in command whose loyalty remains untouched. Michael, Vito's son who goes from an army veteran to a calculating mob boss. Sonny, the short-tempered older son who acts on impulse. Clemenza, one of Vito's soldiers who ends up becoming a father figure for Michael. Kay, Michael's wife, whose obliviousness to her husband's eventual occupation as a mobster unfortunately becomes non-existent. This movie has so many interesting and relatable characters with such great acting performances behind them that it makes Citizen Kane look like fucking Fantastic Four by comparison. But of course, acting isn't everything. A movie can have one or more good acting performances, but can still be a complete fucking piece of shit. So in terms of writing, cinematography, atmosphere, and all that other stuff, is the movie good? Yeah, it's actually really great. Let's start off with something easy. Music. The score for The Godfather was composed by Nino Rota, who wanted the music to evoke certain emotions that relate to a few scenes or actions in the film. So naturally, the score fits perfectly, like with the opening title card, with its echoing trumpet music setting the tone for the entire film. Or in the scene where Michael pulls up to the Italian restaurant to kill the two guys who are trying to kill Vito. The orchestra slows to a quiet dynamic, as the piano alternates between the highs and lows of an A minor chord, letting you understand that shit is about to go down. While we're at it, I'd like to point something out about this scene. For context, Michael is trying to kill this cop named McCluskey, and this guy named Salazzo, a drug lord whose failed partnership proposal with the Corleones ended with him shooting Vito and capturing Tom. Clearly there's a lot of tension in this scene, since the Turk is trying to spark a conversation with Michael. But he himself is struggling to maintain his composure, wary of the consequences that could arise from shooting someone in cold blood. Nervous of what could go wrong, Michael goes to the restroom and grabs the handgun that Clemenza had placed behind the toilet. Then he goes back to sit at the table, and as a train can loudly be heard in the distance.
Mettiamo tutto a posto. Steve sta lì. Si deve finire.
Michael shoots them dead. The main thing I love about this scene is the train sound effect. As it gradually grows into a loud crescendo and the camera zooms in and becomes more claustrophobic, you can see Michael realize his closing window. It's now or never. Shoot them and be done with this. It's such a simple, but brilliantly effective way to add tension to a scene. Okay, that's great and all, but what about writing? Everybody knows that without good writing, characters aren't likable and their actions can't be justified.
I have an idea.
Well, believe it or not, The Godfather is actually based off a 1969 book by Mario Puzo, who eventually wrote the script for the film adaptation. By recruiting Puzo to write the script, he's able to fine-tune the characters' actions and dialogue to show how the lives of these mobsters are constantly put in danger. Vito Corleone is a man of power. He holds so much influence over crime in New York. He's basically considered untouchable, no pun intended. Except when he isn't. When Vito gets gunned down at the street market by Salazzo's men after the failed negotiation I talked about earlier, he's reduced to a bedridden grandpa who knows he can't stay as Don for long. It's the thought of this that makes the situation more dire for the Corleones, and more entertaining for the viewers. Then after Vito is down for the count, Sonny takes command, but his hot-headedness and his unwillingness to take bullshit from anybody leads to fatal consequences. After one of Vito's daughters, the one who just got married, is abused once again by her husband Carlo, Sonny speeds his way over to their house to have Carlo sleep with the fishes. But the tables are turned. Carlo is wary of his own life being threatened and didn't want anyone telling him what he should and shouldn't do with his wife. So he sold Sonny out to rival gangsters and he's violently killed. Jesus Christ, man. Alright, up next let's quickly go over some other great aspects of the film, like the lighting and the set design. The set design for The Godfather is like every other aspect, perfected. The sets are wonderfully designed, especially Vito's office, which even just by looking at it you can understand he's an incredibly down-to-earth person who takes his job in the Mafia very seriously. Or the scene in the morgue after Sonny dies. The only light in this scene is the light shining on the characters' faces and Sonny's body. This really does an incredible job at setting the grim atmosphere and devastated emotions of the characters. This is legit one of the most visually compelling movies I've ever seen, with all of the environments meticulously created to offer a one-of-a-kind viewing experience in the Italian boroughs of New York City. There's no green screens or visual effects or CGI bullshit, just beautiful, carefully thought-out scenery that compels you for the entire film's duration. Now on to the next full topic, the character of the Godfather. Throughout the film, Don Corleone is shown to have many of those around him show their reverence and respect. That's the main reason why people even call him the Godfather. Not only is he an actual godfather, but it's an honorary term. Don Corleone isn't your average run-of-the-mill Sicilian mobster. He's a man who values honor, loyalty, and friendship. He's the guy that does favors for people in exchange for other favors or small gifts. It's these simple gestures that increases his respect for somebody, which is why the scene I described earlier in the video is super important. When Bonastira asks Vito for revenge in the name of his daughter, Vito is like, "No, you haven't been nice to me. Fuck you." The only reason Vito agrees to have the wish granted is because he has to follow Sicilian traditions, since it is his daughter's wedding day and he can't refuse it. Vito is very old-fashioned that way. He values friendship, not only with fellow mobsters, but also with his political and business associates. This is why he rejected Salazzo's idea of a drug partnership. Though it is an immensely successful business, Vito's worried how such a partnership would harm his connections across all corners of society. Not only is that the case, but the Godfather is a good man. Well, he's a good man pretty much in the same way Tony Soprano is a good man. Even though they're both generally kind and respectful people, they're also the leaders of giant organized crime families. The actions they take on a day-to-day basis lead to the pain and suffering of lots of people. Even still, Vito shows his kinship and love to all those who respect him, and he clearly cares about the people he surrounds himself with. It's this that makes his character a lot more interesting, and his eventual demise towards the end of the film all the more heartbreaking. Okay, so I just listed pretty much all the reasons why The Godfather is still considered one of the best movies ever made. This was something that took a lot of research and analysis on my behalf, but just in case you're the 1% of people who still aren't convinced that you should watch this movie, let me do one last thing. Let me explain this particular scene towards the end of the film. This scene takes place at a church, sometime after Vito dies. A priest is baptizing Michael's nephew, promising to look after him as his godfather. See where I'm going with this? As Michael stands at the altar, the ominous organ music and cries of the child continue, as Michael's soldiers gear up for an absolute ambush. As the tension grows, Michael is asked if he renounces Satan.
You renounce Satan?
To which he responds with,
I do renounce him.
Literally as he's saying this, his men are murdering the other dons of the five families, making the Corleones the head of crime in New York.
I do renounce them.
And all his pomps?
I do renounce them.
Nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Michael Rizzi, go in peace, and may the Lord be with you. Amen. Amen.
So, when I was writing the script for this video, I had trouble externalizing how I feel about this scene for the better part of 2 days. But I just can't. It's just spectacular. The irony of this scene is not lost within me. In fact, that's what makes it so great. Michael is becoming a godfather and the godfather at the same time, just like his dad. As he takes the family reins and becomes the head of New York's biggest mafia family now, he eliminates all the competition. He is bringing the Corleones into a new era of not just profitability, but also malice and hatred. Though Michael renounces all that is evil in this world, he himself is becoming evil. He's cold, calculating, and short-tempered by the time the film ends, and he's certainly not going to let anyone stand in his way, going as far as to close the door on those who try to interfere. The Godfather is a perfect film, and easily director Francis Ford Coppola's best work. It's a perfectly mixed concoction of tension, business, crime, anger, consequences, tragedy, and misfortune, further bolstered by amazing acting performances from Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, Diane Keaton, Talia Shire, and Robert Duvall, among others. It's also one of the most influential films of all time, with the way that it's filmed and presented, setting the groundwork for young filmmakers to tread on with the masterpiece films they would eventually create. If you're still unconvinced that this movie is something that you should watch at some point in your life, I'm really sorry, because there's nothing else for me to say. Except, I'm giving The Godfather a 9.8 out of 10. Sooner or later, you'll come across this movie and you'll watch it, because, let's be honest, this movie is an offer you can't refuse. Fuck you, Suicide Squad.